Peace and blessings. What's good? This is your boy 7 Inglewood Zone right now in your zone. And here we are, another week into Trump World 2.0. Fresh on the heels of America's favorite con artist come president, getting the welcome that he deserves at the Super Bowl. Traitor! 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 But Fox, being Fox and doing what Fox does, was sure to play applause for y'all to distort your perceptions and to protect his ever fragile ego. And not to be outdone, Kendrick brought his fitted Canadian tuxedo bell bottoms to a world already divided by red and blue, AFC and NFC, and of course, Kendrick Drake. And oddly enough, there was no show of Lil Wayne, which I honestly had speculated that he might show up, but there was enough Master P's to go around and keep everybody quiet, so hopefully there was no huge uproar. Shout out to all my HBCUs out there from Slidell to Ruston, all y'all folks in between. I miss y'all, but I'll let all y'all discuss that while we move on with this next episode of The Blackman Show presents Society Breakdown. You ever had one of them situations where, you just sitting there minding your own business, paying rent in your own little domicile, and, all of a sudden you get a notice from your landlord that says that your rent is going up $300. And you're like, wait, excuse me? What exactly got upgraded? You know what I'm saying? Because the roaches is still here and they ain't paying me nothing. You know what I'm saying? I had a spot where the rent jumped up a little bit, and I honestly asked the landlord why. And, that was when he hit me with, that's the market rate. And I'm like, but that's the market where you set the price. That market? So it's the market rate because you set the market rate. Like, that's crazy. It's crazy. People love to use these boogeyman tactics to make the boogeyman the thing that you should be afraid of, when in actuality, it's them. Oh, it's me. And don't get me started on corporate landlords. You know what I'm saying? Like companies like to buy up an entire apartment complex just to raise rent and add nonsense like convenience fees. You know what I'm saying? For paying online. You're getting the convenience fee for paying online. How else are you supposed to pay? Like, this is 2025. How else are you supposed to pay? You gonna pay by Raven? You know what I'm saying? I sent the Raven. And so if you feel like home ownership is getting further and further out of reach, I'm here to tell you, it's not just in your head. Just like in last week's episode, it's by design. So today we're gonna break down why the rents keep rising, why buying a house feels like it's impossible, and what you can actually do about it. I don't know. I just thought it necessary to break this down because it felt like simple living is becoming a luxury item, and having any sort of stake in that luxury item is fleeting at best. So everything is being, anyway, don't get me started. So the main questions that we are looking at today are: one, why is rent skyrocketing everywhere? Why is it so hard to buy a home now? And lastly, what are the real alternatives that we can look at to escape the rent trap, if any? In the past, renting usually meant that you were dealing with individual landlords. You didn't have Wall Street as your landlord. But nowadays you got companies like BlackRock and Zillow and Invitation Homes, I think is another one, buying up properties and setting rent prices. And this is the type of stuff that people aren't really reporting on as much. But when you think about the fact that there are so many houseless people in the United States, but so many more houses that don't have people in them across the nation, you gotta wonder, well, who's doing it? What's going on? And it's important to know about these companies because they don't play by the same rules that you and I have to play by. You know what I'm saying? They don't go in and negotiate with the brokers and all that and deal with you're my broker and your broker and my realtor and your realtor and we have to pay the fees. No. They just go in and set the price. They be like, I'm gonna buy up this block. And they were the ones who are taking up and buying these properties up at much cheaper rates and negotiating much cheaper prices for themselves and then putting them back on the market at much higher rates. Because again, if I buy all the houses in an area at 325 and then I put them all back out there at 400, what are you gonna do? The market rate is the market rate, but I've set the market rate. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, and then they just use these algorithms to automatically raise the rents across the entire city. So if you think about this like a game of Monopoly, right? So like, yeah, it's cool if you own Boardwalk and Park Place because it's easier to, bankrupt the poor, said if they land on that. But you're still playing the game of waiting and hoping that they eventually land on your property. Whereas if you buy up all the railroads and you buy the utilities and you buy the middle class roads, everything from like St. Charles all the way to, was that Marvin Gardens? You buy that whole L, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. And come to think of it, it's exactly like that. And another reason that the rents keep going up is because of this supply and demand myth. You know what I'm saying? Like every time the rent goes up, you hear somebody saying, there aren't enough houses. It's just simply supply and demand. But the reality is there are millions of vacant homes. Corporations are just buying them up. You know what I'm saying? And hoarding them, keeping them, and then letting them out when they feel it's okay to collect some more money for their for their board or for their investors. You know what I'm saying? So and it's a crappy game because if you look at the amount of people who are homeless or houseless in the United States, because, houses, people who are without houses, homeless people are those who are without a home structure or people who are around them who support them like people who would within a household structure. So that's what the distinction is. And that's why I'm trying to say houseless, not homeless. Anyway, there are 17 depending on where you look. So anywhere, it could be anywhere from as high as as low as 9 or as high as 20. But I've seen on average about 17 million vacant homes across the United States. Across the United States. Meanwhile, houseless people are less than 1 million. You could give every one of those houseless people 17 houses. Google has the average at 28, but I'm just saying you could do. And then look, and then here in Kansas City, there are new apartments that are getting built, but they're all luxury. You know what I'm saying? With $2,500 rents. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's 400 and what is it? I think it's 410 or 470 new units. 10% of them being low income. Listen, who do you think is going to buy up those low income apartments? I'm just saying. And you know that those corporations are getting all kinds of tax advantages, all sorts of tax breaks to come into the community and to conduct commerce in the way that they're doing, and creating and providing jobs and mixed use spaces and all that stuff. So I can understand that, but at what expense? I mean, who's supposed to be coming in and making these $2,500 rents? I'm just asking. And then what's the rent for the low income rents? I remember when I first moved out here, I was trying to live downtown and I couldn't because most of the places that I thought were, to my liking, I either made too much or I didn't make enough. That's what it was. Every single place. It was like low income. You had to make like $19,000 or something silly like that. And this was 2012. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you had to make $19,000 or $25,000 was the cap, and or you had to make over I think 85 or something like that as an individual. And I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I guess that's to keep the riffraff out. You know what I'm saying? The price bases are the restrictive covenant, but we'll get to that in a second. But I'm just saying and it's things like that they do to keep certain people out and manufacture this need or these vacancies that aren't necessarily there, because they could be like, you could have somebody in there if you let somebody live up in there and you weren't so damn greedy. And that's what it is. I mean, I think Richard Pryor said it best. The worst thing that the man's biggest problem is greed.
People don't hate each other, and people start talking to each other, and then they start talking to each other, they find out who's the problem.
Which is?
Greedy people.
I digress. But that leads me to the real problem. The real problem that the rents are going up too high, obviously, is because you just got too much disposable income. That's what it is. You've got too much disposable income. See, rent has increased more than 100% in many cities since 2000. But wages, how many of y'all are making double what you were making in 2000? Now, I hope many of you are. I sincerely hope many of you are. But not everybody is. I can guarantee you not everybody, not even close. You know what I'm saying? So in most major cities, now rent eats up 40 to 50% of an average person's paycheck. And they want you to believe that you're just not budgeting right. You know what I'm saying? But the truth is, the system is designed to make you dependent on renting forever. They want to keep you there, so they arbitrarily raise these prices in order to grasp at the bucket of funds that is your spending from you going out on your trips and posting on Instagram and posting on Facebook and all that. Who knows? I'm not saying necessarily this is absolutely true that they're pulling data points from all that stuff, but I wouldn't doubt it at this point. I don't doubt that corporations don't look at different certain elements of our spending and certain habits that we have in order to gauge how much they can raise the price, in order to gauge how much they can, you know what I'm saying, how much pressure they can put on us from a pricing perspective. There's a lot of P's. But I think that they do that in a way in order to control a certain number of us. You know what I'm saying? Because pricing and numbers are a great way to keep people out of an area. Just think about it. If the rent is $5,000, are you even going to be looking over there? Are you even going to go in that area? I mean, maybe you'll drive by to be like, okay, let's just see what it looks like. But you know you're not taking it seriously because most of y'all ain't making $5,000 rent money. I mean, $5,000 a month rent money. You know what I'm saying? So and that's me either. I'm not saying that I am either. So I'm not. This is not me hating. This is me joining in the fray. You dig? But yeah, I mean but I wouldn't doubt that there is some sort of mechanism out there that's looking at the way that we spend, the way that we act, the way that we behave, our traveling and all that stuff, and them saying, hey, they doing a whole lot of moving around and all that. Is travel going up in the past? I mean, like, you can just look at the numbers. Numbers are available, so I'm certain. Like, just for me thinking from an analyst perspective and just saying, okay, what numbers would you need to make that sort of decision? Well, all these numbers are available from the Department of Transportation and Department of Housing. You can look at how much rents have been paid, how many people have paid on time, and all that sort of stuff. And you can compare that to, now it's not necessarily a one-to-one comparison, but you can draw some conclusions by looking at the numbers, just saying, well, hell, a lot of people are traveling. Travel's going up. Man, it's a whole lot of travel. Where are people getting all this money to do all this traveling? And they just kicking it, huh? Where they going? Travel is really going up in these touristy spots, huh? Wow, it's not just like people going home. People are going to kick it. Okay, bet. Maybe I get my conspiracy theorist hat on right now, but I wouldn't put it past corporations to look into your activity to say, you know what? Yeah. Turn up the heat. Now, why is it so hard to buy a home right now? For one, I'll say, like, investors are outbidding the regular people. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, corporation dollars go way further than your dollar. Look, let's just say, okay, so there was this one time when I was trying to buy some property here in Kansas City, and I was on the county steps, and it was at the auction. Now, so at the auction is, you would think everything is pretty much equal and all that. And there was this one family, I ain't gonna get into who and how and what they look like, whatever. But there was this one family, and I don't even know if they were family, but they were all the same. And So as I would like bid on property, me by myself, because I'm the only one that's there representing me, I'm sitting there and I'm looking and I'm getting outbid on every single property because like every time I outbid this one lady, then this guy from across the room would be like, how much you need? I got you. And then if they got together and their money didn't work enough against me, then the third one would be like, how much you need? I got you. And they kept doing that. They bought up so much property. They did. So, and that was just at the county auction. That was just at the auction on the county steps. Just imagine what that would look like from a corporate perspective. And then beyond that, you got corporations who are willing to pay, or investors who are willing to pay cash over asking price, just shutting out the first time buyers. Now, for example, in 2022, 1 in 4 homes, or about 25%, was bought by an investor, not a regular family. And this matters because just like corporations, they like to buy, raise the rent, and hold these properties hostage. They look, the corporation, LLC, the C part in LLC is corporation. You know what I'm saying? So don't think every time when somebody says corporations that they're necessarily talking about BlackRock or Zillow. So it's huge multi-billion-dollar, maybe even trillion-dollar companies. Who knows? But no, they could also be talking about Leroy. You know what I'm saying? Leroy and his LLC, because his LLC up until and including $500,000 is still a small business, but a corporation nonetheless. You know what I'm saying? So that could be anybody, honestly. So yeah, investors are just like these corporations, and they like to create an artificial housing shortage just like them. And I mean, yeah, we'll all be homeless if rents are $5,000 on average. But you got to wonder about them investors out there who are looking forward to that day. You know what I'm saying? Like all this predatory ass thinking, like, has the current administration taught us nothing? I mean, haven't we got enough of this cut your nose to spite your face stuff?
I don't think that anyone in our county wants to cut our school funding. I don't think that anyone voted for that.
Do you mind if I ask who you voted for in the election?
I voted for Donald Trump.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, you have to have a special kind of hate that says, oh, okay, you'll get me too, but as long as you get that guy, it's worth it. Personally, I don't care about none of y'all that much. I don't care about none of y'all that much. But I digress. Now, another reason is because the banks and the mortgage companies are gatekeeping, flat out. I mean, you got higher interest rates that equal higher monthly payments. That's all to it. Hey, you're gonna pay 25%. Who I don't know anybody is, thankful. Geez, perish of thought. But hey, you're paying 10% on your loan. Okay, now your loan payments are higher. Imagine that. You know what I'm saying? Or if they're lower, now you get longer to pay. Oh God. Anyway, I'm just saying. But on top of that, you got lenders who are tightening requirements, making it harder for people to qualify for a mortgage on top of that. And it just kind of takes away from that myth of just save more. Just save more and you'll get the house. I mean, because on average, to get a house, you still have to put 20% down, right? And the average price, I don't know about the average value, but the average price of a home across the United States is $450,000. Any of y'all got 90 grand just laying around? I'm just if so, hey, I got these students. We'll talk offline. So again, here in the Midwest, this is generally in terms of real estate. So I used to do full disclosure. I used to do a little bit of real estate investing, research, and all that. Still do a little bit here and there. And just in looking in this area, you would see it's at least 5 years ago. 5 years ago, and I would say from 2000 up until then. So from 2000 to 2020, the Midwest had pretty much been the median. The median for housing prices across the United States. So if housing prices went up, they would like the Midwest would take a small little bump, If prices went down, it would take a small dip. It would never be anything extreme. The extremes would be everywhere around, whereas the Midwest would be, more palpable, right? Less palpable, I'm sorry. And whereas now, ever since the jab and all that stuff is taking place, and prices been skyrocketing. If you could find rent around this anywhere around here that's less than $1,000, you are doing God's work. Seriously. Well, especially if it's in a place that's worth anything. Because I'll be honest, I lived in one location for over 10 years, and my rent was raised $12. And the whole time I had a 2-bedroom house. My rent was $600. $600. And they raised my rent $12 once over that more than 10-year period that I was. Good luck trying to rent that same building for that amount. And that was just less than 4 years ago that I moved out of there. Less than 4 years ago. I was paying $600 something a month. That's crazy. It's crazy. It's unheard of right now. And it was a nice place. Anyway, I digress. But another thing you have to deal with is gentrification and housing bubbles. So neighborhoods that used to be affordable are now luxury zones. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of goes back to that facelift that's taking place in I think the River Market area in Kansas City. So the local residents get priced out, but these homes ain't meant for them in the first damn place. You know what I'm saying? Again, who's affording these $2,500 rents? Who are you bringing in to pay these $2,500 rents? And where are they getting these $2,500 rent jobs? And why can't you give these $2,500 rent jobs to the people who already live here so they can make and afford the $2,500 rents? You know what I'm saying? But it's like between corporate hoarding, price inflation, and bank restrictions, home ownership is moving further out of reach. But that doesn't mean that you're stuck renting forever. So some of the real alternatives you can look at it, escaping the rent trap, are like, co-ownership. Look at co-ownership. Buy with some friends or family to break into the market. You know what I'm saying? Buy a duplex or a triplex, live in one unit and rent out the others to cover your mortgage. Like I was talking about with that family when I was at the auction. They had, obviously they were sporadically placed and spaced throughout the thing, and they were all working together. But yeah, they were working together in a certain area they had a certain price point they were working at, and they knew exactly what they do something like that. I felt bad that I don't have people like that I would work with and combine my dollars with, but I didn't then, I do now. But I felt bad then that I didn't have that. You know what I'm saying? So if you have some people, get you some people. Well, first of all, be trustworthy. you be trustworthy. Second of all, get you some trustworthy people around you, and then start talking about real things to do with your money, because these are real decisions that can be made. So and once you get to that point, then you can put your money into some sort of investment or some sort of project that you all can build and grow and watch its value grow together, right? So, there are things like that. You can do like I was trying to do. You can go to the auction, or you can go to land trust. They have land trusts here. They have land trusts in other cities. If you are willing to do the legwork, because I'm going to be real, I'm being kind of lazy. But if you're willing to do the legwork, those opportunities are out. And at the same time, you've got looking at rent to own options where you can pay your rent. Rent goes towards the payment of eventual ownership of the property. So, like I was talking about the property I had where I was paying $600 a month, right? Best rent I ever had, worst investment decision I've ever made. Because again, I lived there 10 plus years. It was actually almost 15 years that I lived there. They only raised the rent $12. But when I first moved in there, they said, hey, this is, we're going to offer you this opportunity to, rent to own, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not going to live here that long. That's honestly what I said. I didn't have any other plan, but I said, I'm not going to live here that long. I remember I said that. you do the math on how much rent was paid. Let's just say $600 a month. No increase. Don't worry about it. $600 a month for 14 some years. You do the math on that. I've already paid for that house. You know what I'm saying? And by the time I moved out, you know what I'm saying, the house was getting paid for basically. But, you know, obviously I hadn't made that agreement with them, so they ended up selling it to someone else. And, you know, because I did make an offer to buy it once I was moving out, but they were asking for way too much. So I was like, yeah, you go ahead and do your thing. But they ended up getting a market rate that was way over what they were offering to sell it to me for when I first moved in. You know what I'm saying? So those rent to own options, if they're available, if you can find something like that out there, take them. Take them. Oh my God, I'm still kicking myself in the butt for, you know, for that chance that I missed way back when. And lastly, you can support rent control initiatives. You know, now I don't know personally, but I've heard out here in Kansas City and other places like New York and San Francisco that they've been helpful to help keep the rents down, help keep things under control. Now maybe they wouldn't help you in a place like Bastrop, Louisiana, or El Dorado, Arkansas. You know what I'm saying? But see, that's when it's a good time for you to have some friends, so that way you can invest collectively. But you can't be on bullshit. And at the same time, you can push for corporations and corporate landlords to stop mass property hoarding. You know, it's slow, but it is effective. You know what I'm saying? You got tenant unions and collective bargaining agreements for fair rental terms and stuff like that. I mean, the key in all of this is to shift the feeling from being powerlessness to having some strategy or some sort of game and figuring out what it is you actually want to do in this housing game. And so just to recap, rent keeps rising because the system is rigged against the tenants. Homeownership is harder now, but new strategies do exist. Lastly, renting doesn't have to be a trap, but there are some ways around to get to home ownership if that is something that you're looking to do. You know what I'm saying? But if you can, tell me about some of your landlord horror stories. Look, I can remember when my family owned a fourplex apartment building in Inglewood in Chicago, and believe it or not, the rent was like $250, I think. For everybody else, it was $350 for us, something like that. And I was like 6 or 7, and I remember because my mother and father, they kept arguing a lot about my father being too cool with Miss Ann, who was from Florida, and she was a single lady, lived next door, and she was always short with the rent, but my daddy was always cool with her. I didn't understand it then.
I understand it now.
And if you found this breakdown helpful, hit subscribe. Look, no rental agreement required. But that's it for today. It's been another episode of The Blackman Show presents Society Breakdown from your boy 7. Please, y'all be safe out there, all right? Peace. And I'm out.